And in honor of Women's Month, this month, the month of March, we have some really talented women that we've been interviewing all month. And I do have another special guest today. It's Wendy Smith, who incidentally, she's in the UK. We're traveling to the UK today through Wendy. But Wendy is a former Paralympian. She's also a trauma specialist, and she's an author. And she's going to tell us a little bit about herself as well first. She's got such an interesting background. Wendy, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Oh, Maria, thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to get involved with this, especially in Women's Month as well.
Yes. And Wendy, can you tell my audience a little bit about you? You have such an interesting background.
Yeah, so, well, I'll do a speed walk through Wendy's life. So at school, when I was at school, I wanted to be a car mechanic. Really short story. My dad was a test driver for a motor company, so I grew up under the bonnet of cars. So that was my first dream. And then I found myself, when I went to do this, in a male environment where it was quite chauvinistic, and I didn't have a lot of confidence and belief in myself, and I left very quickly. Then I went to become a secretary, which wasn't very fulfilling, but it was a job because I was brought up to just work.
Yes.
And then I had a motorbike accident when I was 17 years old, and that's where my whole entire life changed. I'd gone from being fully able-bodied and sport mad to then laid up in a bed being told I'd never walk again, paralysed from the chest down. And I spent around about 8 months in hospital, and then to the disbelief of the doctors, I walked out on crutches 8 months later. And that basically set me on the path to wondering why. I wanted to know why. What was different about my body? What had I done that had created the ability to fix my spinal cord and walk again? So then I basically wandered off on a journey all over the place, meeting physiotherapists and doing different exercises in the gym, doing downhill mountain biking, going back to riding horses, and just trying to do everything to fix my body, but nothing really seemed to work. So then I started studying mindset. And through my own traumas, through my own depression and my own suicidal thoughts, I discovered, first of all, neuro-linguistic programming that was like the biggest eye-opener for me about the power of my human system and how everything I was doing to myself. So it was my thoughts that were creating the negative loops, and it was my feelings, my emotions, and that allowed me to take control back of my system. And then I just wanted to help other people. So I ended up I say randomly, nothing in life is random really. I ended up playing wheelchair basketball and went to a Paralympic Games in 2004. And I met so many people who had limited beliefs around themselves and their potential that I thought, how can I help these girls, these people? So I became a basketball coach, then a basketball tutor. I integrated that with the sports psychology and the NLP. And then I wandered into trauma therapy. And I use a recoding technique that can actually recode stored emotions around subjects to release people from PTSD and trauma. And then that led me into writing a book, standing on speaking stages, and doing everything I do now in life, really, Maria. So that's me in a nutshell.
Wow, yes. And what a little nutshell that's a gigantic nutshell. Wow, that is incredible. That is really incredible. And I love the way you said that, that we actually do have more power than people really, the human body, the human mind is more powerful than people really give it credit, correct?
Indeed. I always say we're walking about in the biggest supercomputer on the planet. The only difference between us and a computer system is we're not taught how to use our operating system in school.
Wow, that is, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, it's okay. I was saying, if we were taught to use the operating system in school, literally the sky has no limit for anybody.
Yes, and that is so interesting, especially so in today's world, and I'm in today's world where everybody almost all around the world is dealing with this pandemic and isolation and depression. Can you give us some tips, I guess, on how to ditch the negative thoughts? Because so many people dwell on negativity, and I'm one that I always try to look the other way. It sometimes it is difficult to tell people because some situations are, definitely quite daunting. But I'm sure you have some tips out there to help people to ditch negative thoughts and try to stay on the positive side of things.
Yeah, there's plenty of them. I think one of the most powerful things, we've not got visuals on this podcast, but if people could just use their imagination for one moment. If you imagine an A4 sheet of white paper, and that is your day. So that is everything your unconscious sees through the whole day. And in the middle of that piece of paper, there's a tiny little, the size of a pinhead, black dot. And that's all your conscious brain can focus on out of the day. So if you imagine, if you wake up with anxiety and you're looking at your little black dot of anxiety, you cannot see anything else around you other than what you're focused on. So you're basically pulling into your day everything connected to that dot. When you understand that and you start backing up from the dot, you can actually see like, wow, there's this whole white page of day that's full of so much more than anxiety. So that's the quick version of how to start that. Just imagine that you're staring at a little black dot and you've got your face right on it. And if you back up from it, there's so much other stuff around you that's not the perceived problem. And then that gives you the opportunity just to breathe a little bit. And I say to people as well, think of your body, you know, whatever you feed your body is the result that you're going to get in life. So whether that's the food you're putting in, the people that are around you, the energy systems that you're socializing with, or what you're watching, reading, or listening to. So if you're watching a constant stream of fear or negativity on the TV, you're basically breeding that. Your body is having that same experience as you're watching it. So you're actually running the same chemistry, and you're sort of in a way on purpose creating those feelings in your body. If you're listening to negative conversation and gossip, and you know, have you ever met those people? I call them mood hoovers. They sort of come into the room and they literally suck the life like a hoover out of everybody in the environment with their, you know, maybe pessimistic attitudes, or just, oh, woe is me, it's been a terrible day. And you know, and you spend a short period of time with them and then you just feel like literally drained. So I say, just be aware of how are you balancing yourself through the day. Are you spending time also with the people that juice you up, that give you energy? You know, I have a saying, not selfish, but self first. You are so important in your life, because if you're drained, you can't help anybody anyway. So it's just thinking about, how do you juice yourself up? Your lovely habits throughout the day. You know, do people, when they wake up in the morning, just checking in on your thought processes before you get out of bed and going, actually, where is my head at? Am I in a good state of mind, or am I in a negative state of mind? And then just spending a little bit of time, you know, breathing. Deep breathing is very underrated, but try and go without breathing for 5 minutes and see where you end up. But when you do some deep breathing and you just start thinking, not, you know, how can I be in like fairyland positivity, but what balanced thoughts can I have? And I always say to people, you know, just sit there and go, actually, everything's okay. Not it's like, woo, yeah, awesome. Do you know what I mean? Because that's like too high a vibration if you're coming out of a negative space. So what can you be grateful for? What have you got that is actually good in your life? Because when, again, you move away from the dot, you'll see there's a lot more in there. So set your state in the morning, bit of lovely deep breathing, getting your head in the right place, and then just spend some time nurturing you. Make sure you get outside, Maria. That's a very important one, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Fresh air, nature, you know, go and reconnect. But just make sure you're looking after you first, and then you can look after everybody else.
Yes, those are all very good ideas. I think one thing too, and you mentioned it, is being grateful. You know, I notice people, they're down and they get depressed about things that really don't even seem to matter in life. And sometimes I'll say, well, can you eat? Can you walk? Can you talk? Can you see? Well, those are all things to focus that you should be happy that you have, because not everybody has those very skills, those you know, things that they can do. So if you can do any of that, you're really, you know, focus on those things, be grateful. But you know, you're absolutely right. So many things to be grateful for. And
the gratitude as well. Have you heard of the Heart Math Institute?
No.
No, so there's something called the HeartMath Institute, and these guys have been going a long, long time, and they study what they call heart-brain coherence. And it's the short version of this is if you just slow your breathing down to 5 in, 5 out, and then put your hand on your heart, and while you're doing this for a minimum of 2 minutes, feel a feeling: gratitude, compassion, appreciation, love, joy, but feel a good feeling, or just smile. And what it does, it pumps your body full of 1,300 feel-good chemicals that are longevity generating. They're anti-cancer, anti-leukemias, you know, they're anti-aging, and they last for 6 hours in your body. It's some work that Jodie Spencer and Greg Braden do an awful lot of work around. And I must admit, I've been doing that probably for about 4 years now, following the HeartMath Institute and all their studies around the human electromagnetic field and how we interact with the planet and other people. And if you just do this twice a day, this breathing for 2 minutes, focusing on the heart and feeling, your day ends up like mild bliss is how I describe it. It doesn't really matter what goes wrong because you've got the right chemical compound already running in your system to keep you out of fight and flight. So it sort of shuts your amygdala down a little bit and quietens it down. Because at the moment, with what's happening on the planet, I mean, there's a lot of people in high states of anxiety. So it's not like we're being chased by saber-toothed tigers anymore. But the amygdala is in fight and flight. So you're basically walking around with, you know, the protection chemicals running in your body, which can be quite detrimental over a period of time. So just doing that breathing, you know, the heart-based breathing and feeling will it instantly just brings you out of that space. It's really cathartic.
Wow, that's great. I think that is a really important skill for people to definitely to take advantage of, especially during this time. So much easier to do that than, you know, pop a pill or whatever and get all the bad stuff that happens with that. That's such a pleasant thing to do, and it sounds like it has such a great effect on your life, such a positive effect on your life. So that
it does, yeah. It has a positive effect on those around you as well. So if you imagine, you know, if I do that and then I go and see my family, because my energy is in such a nice, stable, balanced place, if they're feeling a little bit off kilter, you know, they always say the most powerful energy in the room will have the biggest effect on people. And it just calms them down as well, because we're all interlinked. We're all part of the same one system, aren't we, really, when it comes down to it?
Yes. Oh, that's really wonderful advice. Wendy, I know you do a lot also with like motivational speaking and things. And one of the talking points you had mentioned was that you help people find or help find the authentic you. Can you talk a little bit about that and how people can find their authentic you?
Yeah, so there's probably 2 little tips I can give you with that. Number one, we tend to follow everybody else. We see the next big thing and think, oh, I need to be like that, or, you know, I need to do that. And we're taught not so much in school, but with all the social media, you know, I feel sorry for the kids nowadays because they're bombarded with images of what you should look like, behave like, talk like. I even have, you know, I know a few friends who, for the speaking purposes, have changed their accent. And I just think that's, you know, it's so sad that you're not sitting inside yourself and following your own internal guidance to what is right for you.
Yes.
So the first place to start really is just to go inside and listen to that intuitive self and ask it the question and let it give you a yes or no answer to things. Because you have this amazing guidance system that sits within you, that if you ask it a question, it will give you in a millisecond a yes or a no. And then what happens is we get that initial hit and we get the yes or the no, and then we question it with our conscious brain. We go, really? But I should do that because if I don't do that, they might get offended. Or, you know, so then we talk ourselves into something or out of something instead of going with that initial feeling that you have on the inside. So the first thing I say to people is, you know, start tuning into your intuitive self first and finding what really truly brings you joy. And to do that, I always get people to look at their values, what's important to them. I think this is a very overlooked area of life. We tend to just get a job, do a job, work in the job, get your house, and then sort of retire and die, really. Now that sounds a bit pessimistic, doesn't it? But finding out what is truly important to you will help you really be authentic. And what I mean by that is just ask yourself the question, in what area, you can use this in any area of your life as well. What is important to me about X? So if it's work, what is important to me about work? And you want one word answers. So my example would be freedom, trust, honesty, and fun. And then I'd ask myself, why are these things important? And go into real detail. So why is honesty important to you? Why is trust? Why is fun important? Why is freedom? And what you end up with is this lovely big list of things that, you know, if you're achieving at least 3 of these in that environment, you're going to be feeling fulfilled, which then leads to motivation, because motivation, if you break the word down, is only your motive in action. So if you don't know your motive, your values, your whys behind what you're doing, you're going to find it really hard to get your result. Whereas when you know your values, what's important to you in that environment, that is your natural motive in action, motivation. So those are the 2 things really for people to start becoming their authentic self. Listening to your internal intuition, you know, wear the clothes you want to wear, you know, wear the makeup you want to wear, the shoes you want to wear, you know, become you, do the things you want to do. Stop saying yes to everybody. You're allowed to say, no, actually, I'm not feeling that one. Thank you for the offer. And it is just that getting back to you, and people will appreciate it as well, because when you find your authenticity, it gives other people the opportunity to do the same from a non-judgmental, non-ego, non-biased sort of space. And then look at your values, and from your values, you'll find your motive to put into action, motivation.
And people are such unique creatures that, you know, they don't give themselves credit for being a unique thing. They want to, as you said, they want to all be like everyone else. And the beauty of a person is their uniqueness. They, you know, and they, as you said though, they want to be like everybody else and kind of fit into, but you know, don't give up, as you're telling them, that unique, authentic you. Be the unique, authentic you. That's what makes you stand out, correct?
Exactly. And it's the same with, you know, one of my jobs is as a coach. And people always say to me, oh, there's so many coaches on the planet. I go, yeah, but they're not me. And what I mean by that, that's not coming from an ego space. I look at it like, this is going to sound weird, Maria. I look at it like cheese. This is how I look at things in life. I say, not everybody likes the same type of cheese. Some people like cheddar, some people like brie, some people like Stilton, and some people like smoked cheese. So I am a unique version of cheese. And some people are going to love my cheese. This sounds so weird. And some people won't like my cheese. And I would prefer to attract the people towards me that resonate with me, that I really want to work with as well, and that I can help, because then they'll recommend me to other people in the same ilk. And there's 7.5 billion people on the planet. So there's enough room for everybody to be their unique self and thrive. Exactly. There's no need to compete against each other. Appreciate each other, give each other a bit of love and support, and you'll find you'll just thrive in any environment.
Exactly. Wow, these are all really interesting things. Wendy, I'm going to have you on as a guest another time. I will let you know, because these are such interesting topics. And I think they're so important, especially now for what's going on, you know, in the world. People really need to know about this and kind of take another approach to the way that they live and things that they're doing. So I really thank you so much for joining us for my March Women's Month segments. Thanks so much, and I hope everything's going okay in the UK. How are they doing with everything? Are you guys on lockdown or?
Oh, who knows? I don't watch the news, so my life, all that's happened for me, Maria, is everything is now happening out of my office.
Yes. I don't blame you. I don't like watching the news either. Too much negativity for me. So I just take what I need and I do not focus on that. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I know what I need to know, but apart from that, I think I just like to keep myself in a good space. I think we're coming out of all of this in June, apparently.
Yes, it sounds like we may be doing the same. So that's great. All right, Wendy, thank you so much. And yes, I will definitely be in touch with you again. Thanks so much. Oh, and also I forgot, let my listeners know where they can find you, find your book. Do you have a website?
Oh, okay, yes. So my website is wendysmith.me.uk.
Okay.
And you can buy the book off of Amazon, or you can look on the website and just click the link. But the book was called 50 Ways to Change, and it was just all of it's about 30 years worth of personal development knowledge. So I've put it into 50 different segments, and then the back of the book is a how do you apply it to life. So it's a bit of a guide as well. You get to unpick your map of reality and put it back together.
Oh,
So
that sounds really, really interesting, Wendy. And I'll try to, we'll put a link on my blog with Wendy's website also, just in case. But, and what's the name of the book again?
50 Ways to Change.
50 Ways to Change by Wendy Smith. So definitely look for that book. All right, thanks again, Wendy. And
thank you.
We'll have you another time, definitely. Thanks so much. We'll be talking to you. Cheers.
Thank you, Maria, and thank you to your listeners as well.
Okay, bye-bye now. Bye.
Bye for now.